The Centre for Social Justice is hosting the 4th Annual Social Justice Lecture at Stellenbosch University, themed Social Justice and the Constitution. The lecture will be delivered by Justice Albie Sachs, and Professor Thuli Madonsela joins us to discuss the social justice, of course, as one of the pressing challenges as then they inch closer to this particular lecture. Prof, thank you so much for your time this evening.
Thank you for the privilege, Bongiwe. Greetings to everyone.
Thank you. This lecture comes at a very difficult time when, you think about fair and equal treatment being in the spotlight. You think about South Africa, seen as the most unequal society in the world. What can we expect?
Well, we will be reflecting on 30 years of constitutional democracy. People often forget that constitutional democracy set root in this country with the interim constitution of 1993. And Justice Albie Sachs, who was one of the co-drafters of the constitution and a freedom fighter before then, will be talking to us about social justice and the constitution. Is this the country we were fighting for?
And that very question, especially when you think about how a number of people tonight are looking at the fact that, some are still looking for access to quality education, looking for access to, proper sanitation, and all of those things that are their rights when you look at the Constitution. It's an apt time at which this lecture comes.
It certainly is. And we expect Justice Albie Sachs to reflect on whether the fact that we still have those gross disparities in terms of educational opportunities and other rights and privileges is a constitutional problem, or is our failure to implement the Constitution properly.
And could we see also him touching on the thorny issue that we've seen in recent times of a lot of people poking questions and holes about the Constitution, whether or not it still is, to be followed, others debating it, saying that it's not working for them, they're abandoning it. Can we see him also touch on this as well?
I don't see him avoiding that question, Bongiwe. I think he'll have to go there because increasingly we're getting a lot of young intellectuals that are saying we have a Potemkin constitution. It's all a charade. It looks glossy on the outside, but it's a shell inside. And they are asking for the total abolition of the Constitution. They even call themselves constitutional abolitionists. And of course, there are those who are saying, let's abolish democracy and start from square one. The question is it true that many are still not free? From where I'm sitting, it's true. When people fought, they fought for land. They fought for equality of opportunity, not just to be seekers of jobs, which jobs are not even available, but to be equal in all respects, in all aspects of our economy and life. And of course, that couldn't have happened overnight, even though we've had 30 years of constitutionalism. But the question is, are we moving in the right direction? Are people's potentials being freed as the Constitution promised? Is everyone's life being improved as the Constitution promised? Is the country becoming more democratic, socially just, and is everyone increasingly enjoying all rights and freedoms? If this is not so, does the fault lie with the Constitution? And this is the question that Justice Albie Sachs will be answering.
Prof, there's also another issue that is really becoming a huge issue as far as social justice is concerned, and that's the issue around security. We are now finding ourselves with so many mass shootings. Just tonight, we hear there's another one. We're seeing more in Eastern Cape, and there's just so much going on, and people are not safe in that regard. And I wonder, when you look at this, for you, what comes to mind when you think about this aspect of social justice?
Well, it certainly is, Bongiwe, a social justice issue. And there are two dimensions to it. The one is, why are we becoming violent? And is there a link between justice and violence? Plato would say yes. People who feel there's injustice do tend to be resentful, and they do tend to be violent. And that could explain some of it, not all of it. But the second part is the police playing a proper role in preventing the criminality that it could prevent? And that's a question that we have to answer. But I do want to indicate that we have to stop asking the police to give us statistics of the reduction of crime, because this is where they don't do the job. All they do is to hide criminality. We've got to measure the police according to the number of crimes they've solved, particularly murders, because you can't fake murder. AKA is dead, and many others have died. And I am terribly sorry for the sorrow of the families. But what could bring a sense of comfort is knowing that justice has been done. I mean, Senzo Mayiwa, we still don't know who killed him. In a country like Singapore, they don't look at, is crime going down? They want to know, have the police done their job? Do they investigate, discover the criminals, and bring them to book?
And it is the quality of investigations that ultimately can secure a conviction, or can even take a matter forward or determine how far it goes. And I wonder, Prof, when you then look at, the aspect of social justice, would you say that South Africa is still working towards dealing with a painful legacy of apartheid, or has that mission simply been abandoned and we're not sure where we are going?
Okay, we are still dealing with the legacy, not just of apartheid, of colonialism.
Yeah.
The pain in this country starts in 1652. The greatest pain that we don't speak about is the exodus of 1913. Often we talk about 1913 in terms of numbers. But if you read Saul Plaatje, when he tells you the human atrocities of people not just being dispossessed of land, being dispossessed of their cattle, of their homes, and wandering through the desert, not knowing where to go. That pain, that dispossession remains with us. Then you get the dispossession that came with Sophiatown, the 50s, the 60s. So it's not just pain in terms of the economic implications of it. There's the psychology of it from both the perpetrator and the victims, because when you take away somebody's humanity, you take away your own as well. That has been known by people like Nelson Mandela, but also in Ubuntu, we know that when we dehumanize others, we dehumanize ourselves.
And I suppose then, Prof, this is really the message that then the lecture would seek to drive, in order to make sure that we continue to have this conversation and we do not simply just put it on ice and think that social justice is achieved or has been attained.
I suspect, yes. I suspect that the judge, though, will tell us that we are better than we were yesterday. And hopefully he will also tell us that we can't just be spectators. Justice is a collective sport. There are no spectators.
Yeah.
We are either for justice or we are for injustice. Through little things that we do or fail to do every day, we are either taking us back on the quest for justice or taking us forward. So I don't want people to think that things are worse than they used to be. I want people to realize that we can all do something to make this country a country where everyone truly belongs. Well, when we talk about equal opportunity, we are realistic. There are no students who are wandering around universities right now being unable to register because they cannot afford. And that is, according to people like John Rawls, an injustice in terms of human solidarity. But in our case in South Africa, it's also an injustice because of the failure to achieve restorative justice.
And a fitting, person to deliver this lecture, having interviewed him myself, I tell you, we are in for quite some time. But Prof, before I let you go, we're almost out of time. The Section 194 committee talking about the possibility of pursuing a subpoena for you to appear before it. This, despite you expressing reservations. Any developments in that regard?
Oh, yes, Bongiwe. I did agree to appear. I still don't think I would add value, but the committee thinks I will. And of course, as a law-abiding citizen, I have agreed to appear, I think on the 1st of next month.
So 1st of March?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you so much, Prof, for your time. We do appreciate it. And of course, as you said, that lecture coming there, Justice Albie Sachs, talking about a very important issue in South Africa right now, social justice and the Constitution. Is this the country we were fighting for? And that, of course, is Professor Thuli Madonsela, Stellenbosch University Chair in Social Justice Research, joining us for that conversation.